Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Meaningful Motivations with Tracy Erickson. And of course, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tracy Erickson, and this episode of Halloween Spooktacular, I'm going to be telling you about this lizard man or reptilian humanoid type of creature that was seen in the Swampland of South Carolina. So stay tuned. I really like to watch TV shows about the paranormal this time of year. And so the other day, I tried a Hulu show that was about paranormal crimes. And within the episode that I was watching, there was a little side story that took place about a lizard man that was sighted in the swampland of South Carolina. The show introduced Phil Stokes, who was a deputy sheriff in Lee County, South Carolina in July 1988 when this story took place. When Phil came onto the show, he said that a lot of people think that here on Earth, that there are only people. But I don't think that way. I can tell you things that will blow your mind, things that I couldn't explain. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, that's fine. Because I saw it with my own two eyes. I was there. And before talking about what took place in July of 1988, Phil Stokes even said that you just have to be open-minded about these things. Because just because you don't see it yourself doesn't mean that it didn't happen. The deputy said one night the sheriff got a call from Chris Davis, who said that something jumped on his car and it was a lizard-looking thing. I was immediately interested in hearing the story of what happened to Chris Davis on that night in July of 1988. Chris Davis told the story of his experience. He said that while he was driving home from the late night shift at the McDonald's, he had a flat tire near the scape or swamp. So he had to pull over and get out of the car to change them. And that was at about 2 a.m. While he was outside the car, he heard something running toward him. And he even said that he saw red eyes. He said that what he saw was about 7 feet tall with long arms and a greenish body. So he jumped into the driver's side of the car and he looked in the rearview mirror and saw this thing with the red eyes running straight for him. And so he decided to try to drive off. And suddenly there was a loud crash on the top of his car as he was speeding off. Chris Davis's brother, Willie Davis, even came onto the show that I was watching, and he told the story from his perspective of that night. Willie stated that it was late at night when suddenly his brother Chris pulled into the front of the house with the headlights shining into the house, and he was honking the horn and yelling and hooting and hollering. And so his brother went outside and said that he basically had to pull Chris out of the car and into the house. Willie even said that he had never seen Chris act like that. When speaking of his brother's fear, Willie even said that the way Chris Davis was behaving that night was very eerie. When Sheriff Liston Truesdale got the call and came to speak with Chris Davis, he actually asked him to make a drawing of what he saw because he couldn't actually believe what it was that he was hearing. When Chris described this 7-foot-tall, long-armed, greenish-body creature that he'd experienced at the scape or swamp. The sheriff even noticed how fearful Chris Davis was when he was telling the story of this lizard man creature that he saw near the swamp. So the next morning, the sheriff and his deputies went down to the Skateboard Swamp area to the place where Chris said that he had this sighting, and they decided to do a little investigation. During their investigation, the sheriff and deputies ended up finding large and strange tracks. They followed those tracks as far as they could, but the tracks just disappeared into the swamp. They did get a casting of the track. They also found claw marks on a 55-gallon steel drum that was in the middle of the swamp area as well. Some stories I believe, and some stories I don't believe. Chris Davis's story of this lizard man in the swamplands of South Carolina, I do believe. Not only did he see this creature and have the creature jump on top of his car, but he has eyewitnesses who saw how fearful Chris was after this sighting. And the police also found tracks in the swamp area where Chris stated that he saw this creature. While this could be a hoax, there's just something about it that makes me believe it. After hearing about the lizard man of Bishopville, I decided to look in my monster book to see if I could find any other stories of lizard men that have taken place. And I did actually find one. And the lizard man in the book is the Thetis Lake man reptile, which was kind of like a lizard man that was sighted in British Columbia, Canada. So on August 19th, there were two men, Robin Flewellen and Gordon Pyle, who actually encountered some kind of scaly, humanoid-like monster, and they claimed that it looked like the deadly fictional creature in the 1954 movie Creature from the Black Lagoon. And in the monster book, it says the pair didn't just encounter the thing, they were chased by it too. Fortunately, despite its attempts to clearly try and injure or even kill them, the friends managed to avoid its deadly clutches and headed for the nearest police station. Such was the state of fear into which Flewellen and Pyle had plunged, the police considered their story to be a true one. Right away, I recognized that there were a couple of things that both of these encounters have in common. The lizard man type creature was a humanoid type figure that was running after them. So in both encounters, the lizard creature was chasing the people who sighted it. And in both encounters, the police noted the absolute fear that the witnesses had been experiencing at the time of telling the story. So in both cases, the people who claimed to have witnessed these creatures were just thrust into such fear that the people who were hearing the story have really no choice but to believe the story that they were being told. I would love to know your thoughts on these reptilian or lizard man type creatures that people seem to witness from time to time. My thoughts on it is that it is a possibility that strange creatures do exist out there in the wilderness, in the uninhabited corners of the world. Our earth is so vast, and there are so many places for creatures like the lizard man or the Bigfoot or the abominable snowman to hide and really never be seen by human eyes. But once in a while, when you're out in nature, you might accidentally stumble upon one of these creatures. And that leads me to another theory, is that it is possible that these strange creatures like lizard man and Bigfoot do exist, but maybe they exist in a different dimension than this third dimension that we're living in. And when people are out in nature, that could be when they are also kind of pushed into the other dimension within their own consciousness, which could then cause them to see things that are there, but maybe aren't really there. I don't know, you guys. What do you think? Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. And of course, if you are a viewer but not yet a subscriber, I would love for you to click subscribe down below. And once you have subscribed, you can turn on the notifications bell if you want to be notified each and every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me. I love you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.